Hey, today I'm going to be looking at the upcoming Phoenix changes and also the Regen shield. So we're going to watch this clip first and then I'll talk about the Phoenix changes first. And that's pretty much all we got, basically, for the changes. Okay, so despite that clip being quite short, there's actually quite a lot to talk about. So I'm going to talk about the Blaze Wall first, because the Blaze Wall was like the main thing happening in the trailer. And so in patch 9.10, the Blaze Wall can go through walls, and to do this in like a previous patch to 9.10, you would have to bend it around the wall and then do that, right? And generally that's going to be more unreliable. It's going to be harder to do. So you're mostly going to leave gaps here. You're going to leave gaps here because you maybe run out of wall. So it's just going to be more unreliable on these patches in comparison to just throwing it through the wall. And that's going to make the skill floor of the wall lower, right? It's going to be easier to use. And on top of that as well, because we were talking about how the wall is being used, a lot of the time is going to broaden the skill of the wall in general, like of the ability in general, right? This goes for most abilities. If you're talking about how it's used rather than the numbers, then generally it's going to impact the skill ceiling and the skill floor quite a lot, depending on exactly how it's being changed. So in this instance, it means that the skill floor is going down, it's going to be easier to use, and also the skill ceiling is going up because there's going to be more available walls. And that means that even the strongest walls that we have now for Phoenix might not even be the strongest walls anymore, because now there's going to be a lot more stronger walls that can be available to us and that we might decide to use instead. And situationally, we might still use the walls we use now, but I think there's going to be situations where, or maybe even most situations, where we're basically going to be using this buff. So I do think that this Blaze Wall change is going to be quite big for Phoenix, because I do think it's going to change the way he's played quite drastically, potentially. It's definitely going to make him a bit more reliable when it comes to the wall. Next is the change of the signature ability, right, to the flash. And this changes a very, very minuscule change to this is that potentially you save 50 credits on your economy, because this molly is probably about a 200 credit molly, and the flashes cost 250. So it means that you get a 250 for free, and you don't get the 200 for free. It basically means that you've saved 50 credits. On top of that as well, the signature ability being changed. So now this refreshes, you get up to 4 flashes in a round. I think that's more incentivized to the way that Phoenix wants to play rather than his molly. The flip side of this is obviously you don't get the extra healing from constantly refreshing the molly. But I think that it's at that's better. Honestly, it's much better to have the flash up more, because the flash is just better in more situations. It allows you to set up for trap plays that in more situations. And just in general, it allows you to go more aggressive and play more to what Phoenix wants to do, rather than the molly, which didn't do that at all times, which the flash kind of does the majority of the time, play to what you want to do. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the regen shields, and there's quite a lot of conversation around it because there is just a lot to think about with the regen shields. So first of all, it's 3 sets of light armor that are available to you over the course of 1 round if the situation arises. We don't quite know how it goes over certain rounds, like how it goes over to the next round, right? We don't quite know what happens. But I imagine that essentially is the same as every other armor, where it keeps whatever numbers it has. I'm guessing that it pushes any numbers in here into this until it has 0, basically. So essentially, it might be like investing into the future, which means that if it does cost anything less than 1.2k over the course of 3 rounds, it's going to be more cost effective to buy this, provided you live, than buying 3 sets of light armor, as long as it costs less than 1.2k. That's one of the conversations that we can talk about. Something else as well that's important to talk about is the way that light armor is actually used in the first place, which is usually when there's 5 vandals on the enemy team, it's fine, or maybe an operator and 4 vandals, it's fine to buy a light armor because it's actually a money save, because heavy armor also dies to 1 headshot. And also the breakpoint for the vandal is 120, which means that you still don't die in 3 body shots. So it is actually a really strong armor versus those strategies versus 4 vandal and 1 operator, or 5 vandals. This doesn't quite have the same impact as that. And the reason for that is because it's an economical strategy. You're buying the light shields because they're the cheapest ones and perform very similarly to the heavy shields. The problem is with the regen shields is that it's going to be more of an investment than the light shields are going to be, whilst performing very similarly versus those guns as the light shields. And there's going to be situations where the regen shield is going to outperform the light shield and potentially even the heavy shields based on the fact that it's got more effective health. However, those situations may not be very easy to foresee. And so the last thing I want to look at is actually the situations where the regen shield actually is in use, basically. And it really concerns me that the shield won't be good. So you can see here, it regens. And it looks like it's off getting a kill. And to me, if you know any of my content, you know that I consider that to be very unreliable. Because getting a kill is unreliable. Take a look at Reyna versus Jet. When Reyna gets a kill, that's when she can use her dismiss. If she doesn't get a kill, she can't dismiss. Jet can just prime her dash and dash away. She doesn't have to have any prerequisite, any situation. She can just dash. It's proactive. The shield, it looks like from this situation, from this clip, it isn't proactive. You have to get a kill. You have to meet the requirement to then get the regen. So this makes it worse. It makes it worse than if it was proactive in the way that you could do it, right? You press a button, or maybe you stay out of combat. Those type of stuff are way easier to do and a lot more proactive, a lot more about your choice and your agency than getting a kill is. Getting a kill is a lot more coin flipped. And don't get me wrong, this regen shield will still have impact when you're taking a fight and you win the fight, right? You're going to take damage when you win fights. Sometimes anyway, a lot of the time you are. Because the person's going to shoot back. So it's not like completely useless. And there's going to be times where you will get this regen and it's going to be better than if you had light shields, because light shields doesn't regen. And that it means that you can maybe snowball a bit through the rounds. There are going to be times where it is going to be better. But does it warrant the extra investment that it's going to force you to take? And that's like the real question right now. I don't really know. So I'm going to need to play with it. I'm also going to need to know the actual credit price. Those are the two things that are really going to help me formulate my opinion completely on this. So yeah, that's it for the video. So if you have any opinions on the shield and also on Phoenix changes, I would love to know what they are in the comments. And if you think I'm wrong about anything, please feel free to correct me. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in my next one.